the Sharks have played some good games this season. Games against the Pittsburgh Penguins, games against the Tampa Bay Lightning, some great wins. Then they've also played some terrible ones, getting 6-0 shut out by the Golden Knights, losing 6-2 to the Ottawa Senators. And yet, this game tonight has left me mostly speechless. I don't really know what to say about this Sharks victory. They defeat the Washington Capitals 7-6. And in overtime, they finish off this 4-game road trip prior to the All-Star game 1-3, so getting 2 of a possible 8 points. Still not good, but at least they didn't go 0-4 like it was looking like it was looking like in the first 59 minutes and 59 seconds of this game. And the Sharks are hosting the All-Star game this season, and it seemed as though they wanted to spread the love here to Washington as they participate in what was basically a prelude to the All-Star game. No defense, subpar goaltending, run-and-gun type of offense. I mean, the Capitals, besides the first goal scored by Ovechkin, which was on the power play, their other 5 goals were scored within about, 5 seconds of entering the zone. It seems like the Sharks just forgot how to play defense. Brent Burns already in All-Star game mode. Joe Pavelski as well, getting 4 points. That's probably a point total that you're putting up in an All-Star game as well. And you might be wondering why I didn't have an intro to this game, to this video, is because that would give this video structure, which would probably be an injustice to this game, because this game had 0 structure at all, defensive structure, none existent, not just for the Sharks, but for the Capitals themselves. I mean, 7-6 game in which this was basically just a run-gun style of offense. It would be an injustice to try and define this game as a well-played game of hockey when it was mostly just like a junior type of game that you'd see in like the QMJHL, with the amount of AHL level defensive plays that we saw from both teams. But to start off the goal scoring, it was Pavelski with his 27th. This was the only point that the Sharks actually had a lead. This lasted until Ovechkin on the power play made it 1-1. Then Burakovsky made it 2-1. Then Hertl on the power play made it 2-2. Then Oshie made it 3-2, and that's how the first period ended. Then it was Evander Kane who made it 3-3. Ovechkin made it Kuznetsov made it 4-3. Ovechkin then made it 5-3. Then we had Couture who made it 5-4 on what was the rarely seen 3-on-0 as Brent Burns came out of the penalty box. Couture actually doesn't even bother to use the other 2 players with him. He just goes for his, his basic through the legs can opener type of deke move that ends up working out. Then Ovechkin gets the hat trick, makes it 6-4. Hertl on a basically carbon copy of the first goal he scored in this game made it 6-5. Then Evander Kane in the last second of the game made it 6-6. And in the overtime, when the Sharks send over 3 forwards, Couture, Meier, and Hertl I don't even blame DeBoer for that move. Literally nothing has worked this season as a consistent group of 3 players for the Sharks. So why not just send on 3 forwards at this point? What do you have to lose? And it ends up working out. Hertl gets the hat trick, the second hat trick in this game since Ovechkin got the first one. Hertl's second hat trick in just 5 games, as he had one last week against the Penguins, and the Sharks get the extra point and finish off, I guess, on a high note. Honestly, 1 extra second passes in this game, and Evander Kane doesn't get the game-tying goal, and the Sharks lose 6-5, and I'm sure I would be singing a much different tune. Most people would be singing a different tune about this one, but I guess it's technically a high because the Sharks did win, but they'll be looking for a much better performance coming out of the All-Star break. But again, you've got to give the fans what they want, which is a game that hypes up the All-Star game coming up. As I said, it is in San Jose. First thing to talk about, I guess, would be Martin Jones. He lets in 6 goals tonight. The Sharks, this is the 4th game in a row in which they've let in 6 goals, and a lot was said. If you don't live under a rock, you've probably read something bad about Martin Jones' performance in this game and in the past couple of games. But if there was one player on the ice who was probably worse than Martin Jones, that would be Braden Holtby for the Washington Capitals. He was having a really tough night, giving up rebound after rebound. I thought he really should have had the one against Hertl, which was the one in overtime. That went far side. Holtby not playing the angle well. He gets burned on the first goal from Hertl on the power play, which I didn't fault him for. But when the second one happens and it's the exact same play and it's the exact same shot, you hope your goaltender could have that one. And so Holtby wasn't great. Jones, of course, wasn't great himself. I don't know if I can certainly fault him heavily on any of these goals because, again, the Sharks' defense was non-existent in this game. But maybe the 6th goal by the Capitals, Ovechkin's 3rd, he could have possibly had. But again, saying that the greatest goal scorer of all time should have been stonewalled by a player like Martin Jones or a goaltender like Martin Jones is probably saying a lot for him. But Jones technically ends up outdueling Braden Holtby in this one, Stanley Cup winning goaltender, and so technically, by the transitive property, Martin Jones should be winning the Stanley Cup this year. I can't really argue with that logic. Next to talk about is the first line. The Sharks keep Meier, Couture, and Pavelski together. This was the first line that was put together against the Panthers, or going into the Panthers game. And I thought it was actually quite good tonight, even when the Sharks weren't at their best here against the Capitals. This was a line that was going. Joe Pavelski, as I said, 4 points tonight, so a huge game for the captain. I thought Meier actually had quite the solid game for himself, as it seems as though while he didn't get a goal in this one, so the floodgates haven't opened from his previous game. He looked quite solid on the puck multiple times, and so the Sharks, having loaded up on the first line, not really trusting Radil, not really trusting Labanc to take first line duties, it has been working out. Again, I'm not sure how much longer they can keep this up unless they make some sort of trade for a scoring winger, because the Sharks, what they love to get was that third line mismatch, and I don't think Sorensen, Thornton, and Labanc really create a third line mismatch anymore, because now at this point Kane, Hertl, and Donskoy are considered the second line. And so if they want to be able to keep that 3-line deep team and try and take advantage of other teams' third lines, they'll probably have to make a trade at this point, or disassemble the Meier, Couture, Pavelski line. But after a game like this, with the offense they managed to put up, I doubt that actually occurs. Finally, to talk about is Evander Kane. He obviously came up huge tonight, not just with the last second goal that made it 6-6, brought it to overtime, but he also had a nice one earlier on. He stays hot. Another 2 goals here tonight, now up to 21. And something that I actually learned, which I shouldn't have been surprised about, and yet I still was surprised about, is that Evander Kane leads the league in penalty minutes with 101, which puts him on pace at, I don't know, over 150. And, normally a player who's putting up that many penalty minutes is getting like fighting major after fighting major, gets like 7 minutes a night. And yet Evander Kane has 42 points this season, if I'm not mistaken. 42 points this season, yeah. And it was, again, I said I shouldn't be surprised by that, and yet I still am. I mean, he did have 20 penalty minutes, I believe, around against the Florida Panthers the previous game. He had another couple tonight as he got a slashing penalty. But, Evander Kane, you'd hope he could maybe stay out of the box a bit, but I guess that is what makes Evander Kane Evander Kane. I'm sure that was sort of a factor why Doug Wilson wanted to bring him in, and at this point it's hard to put a leash on a player like that, because he's just been so good for the Sharks in these past even really couple of months, I guess I could say. But that will do it for this review of this crazy game. The Sharks will be back in action after the All-Star break. That'll be in about 10 days. They'll face off against the Arizona Coyotes on February 2nd. They'll be back at home. They'll also have Erik Karlsson and Vlasic most likely back in the lineup. Maybe knowing the Sharks, Vlasic somehow manages to remain day-to-day after a 2-week break over the All-Star break, that he doesn't end up coming back, but that seems extremely unlikely. Apparently he was, if this were a playoff game, Vlasic would have played tonight, but since it wasn't necessary. So Vlasic and Karlsson should be back. The Sharks should be back at full strength. The 10 days should certainly do them some good, because I'm sure a week ago the Sharks were probably thinking, too bad that we have to take a 10-day break because we're playing so well. And all of a sudden, prior to tonight's game, they're probably thinking that the All-Star game can't come any sooner because of how poorly they were playing in those 3 games after the 7-game winning streak. But the All-Star game is here probably for the best at this point, even after this victory, and the Sharks will look to regroup for those final 30 games down the stretch and maybe still make a run for first place in the division. Class dismissed.